Recently, Kentucky Afield went to the dam and came back with this report. The first thing you'll notice today at the dam is the enormous concrete working platform that spans the entire length of the dam. As you learned earlier in the show, this is where workers will pour the cutoff wall. Though completed, it's been determined that it must now be widened due to the larger than expected equipment needed to construct the wall. While crews are working on that, tracks are being formed that will support trenching equipment for the cutoff wall. The grouting process we learned about was completed in September of 2008.
We drilled about 1,300 holes into the foundation of the dam and injected about 900,000 gallons of cement grout into the foundation.
So how successful was the grouting?
The high mobility grouting that we were not very successful in the area where we had the big caves. Really just in the section there where the embankment ties back into the concrete, the critical area 1. Now we are in the process now of doing some low mobility grouting to help us address those issues. 100% successful, no.
Even with the unexpected construction problems, the project remains on schedule, and with about 200 workers at the height of the project, you can rest assured the fate of the dam is in good hands.
In my opinion, they're much more safe than they were 2 years ago.
Now what about the fishing?
Of course, 2 years ago they lowered it to 680, and initially our first concern was loss of habitat, especially up in the creek arms where the bass and crappie are. And so we were concerned with that, and actually we started a habitat enhancement program up in some of those major creek arms like Fishing Creek and Caney Fork and some of those, and I think that'll help. And once this growth happens, once the water's down, you get those trees growing up, and after a few years they get to a certain height and then you get reflooded, and there's really going to be a lot of extra habitat in the lake because of that.
Now we have two situations. Obviously we have the tailwaters.
Right.
How are things going to be affected down there, or have they been affected?
Actually, they have been affected. One of the problems that's happened with the lowered water level is, and the Corps obviously is trying to keep pressure off the dam, so they try to keep the elevation at 680. So whenever they get a good rain, they get rid of that water as fast as they can. And what's happened here the last couple of years, we've had drought conditions late in the summer, and so the Corps releases that water early they get, but then when it quits raining, they don't have that much water to release for the trout. So what's happened is the lower part of the tailwater's warmed up, and we think the trout have moved from the lower portions of the tailwater up near the dam. One of the other problems with lowering the lake to the 680 is we were worried about the cool water habitat for the walleye and stripers. One of the great things about Lake Cumberland normally is there's enough cold water that has enough oxygen in it to support those fisheries. And of course, once you lower the water level, you kind of squeeze that cool water zone. And we're a little bit concerned about there not being enough cool water habitat for the stripers and the walleye in late summer and early fall. But so far, these 2 years, they've made it through fine.
So here you are with a lot less water. But again, for fishermen, a lot less water means what?
Well, one way you can think of it is it concentrates fish. What used to be in 50,000 acres is now in 37,000 acres. So I think anytime you can concentrate the fish, that's good for fishermen.
While this lake is down, we've had a chance to go in and build some much needed ramps. What's changed here as far as putting in a boat?
Right. The Corps' been great in working with the local areas and working with our agency, and we've extended a lot of the ramps. I think virtually all of the ramps that were unusable initially at the 680 elevation have been extended into the water, so access is as good as it's ever been here on the lake.
Now, originally the project was slated to be done in 2014, but maybe they're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're looking at 2012. Now, if you're thinking, what about the fishing? Remember this, same amount of fish, less water, sounds like a good formula to me.